Assalamualaikum and good evening, students. So welcome to week 8. So far I haven't seen you guys for 2 weeks. Last week I was in Sarawak, and today, because of the request from most of you guys, we're doing this class online. So I hope you can spend this whole 1 hour listening to the lecture and somehow pay attention. So before we start, I would like to say congratulations on your quiz. Most of you got decent scores. Some of you got quite low, but no worries. I might hand out some additional assignments for you to help increase the total marks. So next is, I want to remind you on your PSA assignment. So we will start our presentations from week 11 until week 14, and then in week 14 finally we are going to have the second and also final quiz. So for the PSA videos, I hope it will all be good, entertaining, and most importantly packed with relevant information regarding our topic. As for the case study, apart from presentation, you also have to submit a simple report, and the findings of your report you have to present in front of your friends. So check the Putra Blast for various formats that you can use to present your case study. Alright, so let's start the lecture. Alright, so let's start our lecture. Module 8, causes, symptoms and effects of corruption. Okay, so why does corruption happen? Most of the people involved in corruption are those who have power, and they use this power for their personal gain. According to John Emmerich Edward Dalton, or also called as Lord Acton, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupt absolutely. So Lord Acton is actually an English historian and a social critic, lived from 1834 until 1902. So government officials, most of the time, are those people who tend to be corrupted. And there are 3 groups that have risk of being involved in corruption because of power. So number 1 is people that work in the enforcement, because they have the power to take action against those who break the rules. Number 2, people that work in the procurement, so they have the power to suggest qualified suppliers, the power to select suppliers directly, and also the power to expedite payment. And number 3 are those who are involved in licensing, because they have the power to issue permit or license. So his criticism, Lord Acton, shows that power is the main factor that corrupts a person. So this I'm pretty sure a lot of you know this guy. So this is Abraham Lincoln. So he stated that nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. So Abraham Lincoln is the 16th president of the United States. He also said that everyone is capable of dealing with hardship. Everyone have the capability for that. However, if you want to see the true character of a person, you give that person power. So this will show that power can change an individual. It's something that sometimes it happens not too obvious, and sometimes these changes in us, you don't even realize it. But having power can actually change you as an individual. Okay, so, the nature of greed in oneself, and there is an opportunity to commit corruption. So according to Professor John Hogarth from University of Canada, corruption stems from greed and opportunity. 2 things: greed and opportunity. So for greed, everybody needs a basic needs such as food, clothing, and shelter, but because of greed, some people want more than what they actually need, and even sometimes more than what they can afford. So number two is opportunity. So it exists because of weak internal control, bureaucracy, no monitoring, no segregation of duties, and the use of discriminatory power. Uh, when there, according to Professor Hogarth, the combination of two factors, when it is available, then corruption will definitely happen. So this statement was done based on his research as a professor at the law faculty. Okay, so this is the corruption equation. So power plus opportunity minus integrity equals to corruption. So if these three factors exist, it's highly likely that it can end up with people being corrupted. Okay, so this is fraud. This is Donald R. Tracy, born in 1953. He invented the fraud triangle theory. So this person, Donald R. Tracy, conducted a study on 250 fraud criminals because he wanted to identify the cause of fraud. So based on his study, he has developed a model that suggests three main causes for people to conduct corruption. That is, number one, opportunity; number two, pressure; and number three is rationalization. So opportunities, example of opportunities, it exists when existing systems make process complicated and slow. So for the factor number two, pressure or stress, most often it is about financial stress because of wanting to live luxuriously and beyond the means. Number three, finally, is the rationalization, where these people most of the time they rationalize and justify everything that they do. So first we look at the first factors of corruption, that is pressure. Okay, there's two types of pressure most of the time: financial and also work pressure. When you talk about work pressure, most of the time it involves a person who stays at one position far too long. They have no promotion. They have a feeling that the salary is not commensurate with the work done. It means that they do more, but the pay is still at the same level as how he or she entered the company. So this person also feel like they have a low and unreasonable performance assessments. So the second type of pressure is financial pressure, because what we see now and is happening right now is actually the high cost of living. We have a lot of debt problems. People with debt, young people has faced a lot of bankruptcy issues in Malaysia for that involves young people, and lavish lifestyles, also gambling habits. So the two factors related to pressure is financial pressure and also work pressure. So the second one, factors of corruption, is opportunity. So this is when the person have weak internal control and they see opportunity for corruption in systems and as well as in procedures. There's no monitoring when they do their job, and there's no job separation, and too much discretion in their task can lead into the individual seeing opportunity to be corrupted. And finally, rationalization. The people that commit fraud, they don't see themselves as criminals. They rationalize. They feel that they are ordinary, so that's why they think that everything have a reason, and the reason is okay. For example, they just want to give, just take it. I didn't even ask for it. Rationalization. The boss also take bribes. Don't tell me I cannot do the same. Rationalization. And it is not even his money. He will claim from the company. And finally, and famous words of people that rationalize things is, if I don't take it, someone else will. This sounds very familiar and is happening in the world right now. Okay, so the three factors of corruption, okay, as I mentioned earlier: pressure, opportunity, and also rationalization. So these are the things that you have to really understand, and this is also what we call as the fraud diamond model. Okay, so this model was developed in 2004 uh, by Wolf and Hermansen. They created the crisis fraud triangle that introduced the fraud diamond model. So according to this model, another element that causes a person to commit fraud is the ability of the individual itself. Okay, so a person has capability when one has position and power, two can understand and manipulate the accounting system, three has confidence that his actions will not be detected or be caught, and number four can cope with stress and anxiety of wrongdoings. This consciously, when we do something wrong, we feel bad about it. But for these people that commit fraud or being corrupted, they don't see it and they don't feel it as something is actually wrong. Okay, so identifying symptoms of corruption. So there are certain things that you can see, then you can detect that there are elements of corruption happening in their lives. Number one, sudden change into a lavish lifestyle. So there is nothing wrong with being rich. If being rich is what you want to be, so be it. It is fine. However, it is wrong if the wealth is a result of illegal activities. So wealth is not consistent with the income from legitimate sources. For example, uh, someone who have like only 4,000 ringgit a month salary, but uses a Ferrari. Does it make sense? Okay. So examples of luxurious lifestyle changes, they have expensive real estate, extreme home makeover, expensive and fast cars, expensive overseas vacation packages. They spend everything lavishly. Okay. Symptom number two is the failure to explain source of wealth and asset acquisition. That's why for government staff, we always have to declare whatever things that we own, because this can be an indicator if we are corrupted or not. So the inability to explain the source of asset acquisition can be considered as a symptom of corruption. People involved in corruption, embezzlement, and abuse of power will not be able to explain the source of their property. They will just say it's a present. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Can you imagine someone have a lot of luxury cars and you cannot just justify it? Oh, someone gave it to me, right? So the next symptom is not wanting to be promoted or transferred. They refuse. They just want to stay in that position forever and ever and ever. This is one of the symptoms that someone is corrupted. Okay, the reason to wanting to continue, because they have advantage of working in one place, because therefore they can continue receiving bribes and all that stuff. Okay, they also, system number four is frequently receiving suspicious phone calls. So officials and clients of the organization will deal covertly with improper matters, so bribery. So the official will not discuss their affairs publicly. All right. The next symptom number five. This is obviously just So the symptom is act like a rich man. People can see if you are actually rich, or what's the term you guys use now? Old money. People can know. People can detect if you are really old money or you're just pretending to be old money. Okay. So although the salary is small, but acts like a rich person. So that's one of the symptoms of people who is corrupted, right? And symptom number seven, they have close relationships with the companies or department customers. to avoid to avoid, you know, being integrity is about maintaining a professional relationship, not just with your colleagues but also with everyone else that is related to the company. So being extra friendly, extra nice to department customers can be a sign of people who commits corruption. Okay, so why is it like this? Effects of corruption. Okay, so this chapter explains the effect of corruption on the economy, the reputation of the country, individuals, organizations, and national security, as well as others. So the corruption has a major impact on number one, the country's reputation and economy. Number two, individuals and families. Number three, property. Number four, organization. And number five, safety and environment. Okay. So the effects of corruption on the economy and reputation of the country. Yes, let's see. Number one, a study by Transparency International. It is estimated that the value loss occurred due to corruption is 5% of the world's gross domestic product, or GDP. So this amount is equivalent to 2.6 USD trillion. No, 2.6 trillion US dollars. Okay. So each year, an estimated of $1 trillion in bribes paid for various purposes. Also a study by Transparency International. And between 2005 and 2014, Malaysia actually lost 1.8 trillion ringgit via illegal financial channels, part of which is caused by corrupt practices. Okay. So the effect of Malaysia's reputation in Corruption Perception Index, or CPI. So the government targets for Malaysia CPI to rank in the top 25. I think this is one of the slides that you all seen in the previous lectures as well, so I'm just going to skip it. So what are the effects of corruption on individual? Before this, we will see the effects on the economy and reputation of the country, which involves loss in terms of money. So how about effects of corruption on the individual? Okay, so individual involved in corruption can be prosecuted, jailed, or also can be fined. Okay, so these are the four prominent figures that fell because of corruption. Number one, we have the example, President Suharto from Indonesia. His 32 years rule was overshadowed by corruption scandals, cronyism, dictatorship, as well as oppression. And then this next example is President Mobutu from Zaire. He is known as actually a dictator. During his era, there's a lot of corruption, scandals, nepotism, and misappropriation of government funds. Okay. Number three example is President Marcos from Philippines. He actually embezzled between 5 billion and 5 to 10 billion dollars of government money. All right. So, and lastly, Richard Nixon from the US. He was associated with acts of corruption and abuse of power during the 1972 presidential election campaign. Right? So all of these are, if you look at the title, they are all presidents, leaders of their country, and all of them fall because of corruption. Another example is American politician Robert Bud Royer. Because of corruption, he actually shot himself during a press conference. Sometimes people like this, they don't see another way out but to end their lives. Okay. Another example, the Japan's Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Toshikatsu Matsuoka, he actually hung himself in 2007. Right? So these are the impact of corruption on individuals. And because of corruption as well, and then next example, the Singapore's Minister of Development, he committed suicide during the investigation of his corruption case. And Prime Minister of Israel imprisoned for 18 months. It's not enough, I think. So these are the impact of corruption on individuals. Most of the time it involves loss of lives. So for the country, it's about losing money. For individual, it's about losing their own lives. All right. So corruption in Malaysia, the statistic of arrest by MACC and value of corruption involved. So in 2015, there have been 841 arrests with value of bribes accumulating to 21.31 million ringgit. But if you look at 2019, they have arrested 1,101, only about 200 difference. But if you look at the value of the bribes, so 28 million compared to 2,068.7 million ringgit. So the amount is getting bigger and bigger. So according to the MACC Act 2009, corruption is if you found guilty, imprisonment not exceeding 20 years and fine 5 times of the value of gratification or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher. If the one person who is caught is the government staff, the loss of pension eligibility, because the pension part is one of the main factor of why people join government forces. So if you are guilty of corruption, they will pull you out from the pension scheme. Okay. So additional, the name of corruption offenders will be published. So if you commit corruption, get ready to get famous for at least 3 years, because they will show your name to everyone. Okay. So next we look at the effects of corruption on property. So number one, we look at the effects of corruption on the country. Number two, on individual. Number three is on the property that they own. So proceeds from corruption is seized and forfeited. I think this goes without saying. I think it happens as well to those who are, just still under investigation. They will seize everything because it is part of the data used for the court cases. Okay. So this is a statistic of seize and forfeiture by MACC from 2015 until 2020. So if you look at 2015, they seized 22.27 million ringgit, but they forfeit 3.694 million. But of course, if you look at 2020, they seized 999.38 million ringgit, but they forfeit 14.113 billion ringgit. The number keeps getting bigger and bigger. So next, this is an example of cases involving property and assets seized by MACC. If we look at the slide here, misappropriation at Ministry of Youth and Sports, or Kementerian Belia dan Sukan. So in March 2016, MACC arrested the division secretary suspected to be the mastermind behind the syndicate of misappropriating 107 million ringgit in government funds. So they seized 69 accounts. They seized a house, 12 luxury cars, a watch cost 400,000 ringgit, 40 handbags including from Hermes, which cost 400,000 ringgit as well for one handbag, and luxury bed sheets set cost 260,000 ringgit, and even a diamond ring. Okay. So the next example is the Sabah water scandal. So what they seized during the investigation by MACC, because the total amount of seizure was 214,139,537 ringgit. This is 214 million, so it's a lot. So they actually seized 9 luxury cars, 575 gold jewelry, 346 diamond jewelry, 93 luxury handbags, 86 luxury watches, and 127 land plots. Okay, so if you look at the examples, it involves money, cars, handbags, most of them, right? So finally, this case involve politicians in Sabah. So uh, but this case is actually still in trial stage. So is it true that this case involves politicians in Sabah? It's not true actually, okay? So the MACC investigation did not find any evidence that the confiscated money was linked to any political leader in Sabah or other states. But because this is still under investigation, a lot of information is still withheld from the public. Okay. All right. Next, we look at the effects of corruption on organizations. Okay. So corruption can cause losses to the company. Is as for example what you are witnessing right now, investigation Datin Vivi Fashion Valley. So this is one of examples, okay, on organization. So the image and reputation of the company can be tarnished. People don't trust companies that is involved in corruption. Okay, well, because of the loss of trust, most of the time investors and stakeholders will lose confidence in the company, pulling out all the funds. So corruption causes involve organization because the service becomes inefficient. The corruption causes the service to become inefficient. The systems, the procedures, and rules become ineffective. There is injustice in the service, and of course, the loss of public and customers' trust, and damages of the image of the department and on organization. So corrupt practices causes an additional 10% to business cost. So bribery payments to obtain project or contract will increase the operating costs. When operating costs increase, the price of goods and service will also become more expensive, which I think ultimately will cause the company to bungkus, terus tutup. Okay. So the example of effects of corruption on companies, we look at the first one in Sime Darby. Sime Darby announced a loss of 964 million ringgit in the second financial quarter of 2010. So Ops billion by SPRM led to the arrest of 5 senior officers, including the CEO of Sime Darby, who were involved in corruption. Okay. So a company can be prosecuted under Section 17A MACC Act 2009. So a company or commercial organization can be charged and held liable for allowing its officer or employee to commit corruption to obtain a project or gain as an advantage. For this case, as you learned before, a fine of 10 times of the value of the bribe, minimum 1 million, or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years, or both concurrently. It's different when it is organization and also from individuals. Okay. So next we look at the case example. Rolls-Royce. Who doesn't know what Rolls-Royce is? It's a very luxury and expensive car. Okay. So Rolls-Royce allegedly paid millions of pounds to obtain civil engineering and military contracts in several countries. So the bribes were paid by Rolls-Royce employee and or middlemen from 1999 to 2013. So in January 2017, Rolls-Royce agreed to pay a penalty of 671 million pounds. You time 5 or 6 to know in ringgit, to avoid prosecution by authorities in United Kingdom, United States of America, as well as in Brazil. Okay. Next example, Siemens AG. If you remember, this is actually a telecommunication company. It is actually one of the biggest electronic engineering companies in the world. So charges with making bribe payments amounting to 1.3 euro, 1.3 billion euro to win bids for big projects. So in December 2008, Siemens pleaded guilty and agreed to pay a penalty of 1.6 billion US dollars to authorities in America as well as in Europe. All right. So next, we look at the effects of corruption on security and environment. Okay. So it threatens national security and also in the environment. But although corruption is committed by those who hold minor positions in the public service, the impact on security and environment is enormous. Okay. Example number one, corruption, mining, and sand smuggling. Okay. Corruption causes smuggling and stealing sand. It is estimated that 3,000 trucks are used to transport sand during the year, and losses can reach about 600 million ringgit. So the sand dredging beyond the permitted limit can change the river's water flow and pattern and further disrupt plants and animal habitats. This is greed. Obviously, it's about greed. They can only mine that much, but they want more. Okay. Next is the entrance to the country was invaded. This, I think, has been an ongoing challenge, not just for Malaysia, but also a lot of other countries as well. Because certain people from certain countries sees Malaysia as an opportunity for them to have a better life. So this causes them to keep on coming in the country even though they don't do it the right way. So it is estimated that 1,000 to 1,500 illegal immigrants enter the country every day. Every day. It's a lot. Okay. So the average payment of visit pay fee as well as the levy that should be charged is 800 ringgit per person. So the Malaysian government is estimated to suffer losses of up to 86.4 million ringgit per year. Alright. It is estimated that 2.2 billion in custom taxes are lost due to corruption and tax fraud. All of this, most of the time, the corrupt are done by people with, not a lot of power, but it causes a lot of loss, a big loss to the security of the country and also to the environment. Okay. All right. And therefore, thank you so much for almost 1 hour of 1 hour lecture. All right, so after this, there's going to be a short quiz that I want all of you to answer. Please check Putra Blast for the link. Okay, so read the notes again. Also read the notes for last week because the quiz will have about 4 questions from lecture 7 on white collar crimes and maybe about 4 to 5 questions from our topic today. Okay, so see you guys later. Bye.